We're good to go.
All right, we'll call the meeting to order. We could, I guess we'll say the Pledge of Allegiance. We got the flag, Mike. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America,
To
to the republic for which it stands,
one
one
nation,
nation,
under God, indivisible,
liberty,
liberty,
and justice.
justice for all.
Roll call.
Larry Armstrong,
Here.
John Douglas,
Here.
Michael Howry,
Here.
Michelle Hayes,
Here.
Gene Sensi.
Here.
Is there a motion to approve the agenda?
I'll move.
I'll second.
Any discussion?
Who seconded?
Mike.
Thank you.
Any discussion? Roll call.
Larry Armstrong,
Yes.
John Douglas,
Yes.
Michael Howry,
Yes.
Michelle Hayes,
Yes.
Gene Sensi.
Yes.
Vote is 5-0.
Is there a motion to approve the minutes of the regular meeting of April 7th, 2020?
I'll move.
I'll second.
Any discussion? Roll call.
John Douglas,
Yes.
Michael Howry,
Yes.
Michelle Hayes,
Yes.
Gene Sensi,
Yes.
Larry Armstrong.
Yes.
Vote is 5-0.
Is there a motion to approve the minutes of the regular meeting of April 22nd, 2020?
I'll
I'll
move.
I'll second.
Any discussion? Roll call.
Michael Howry,
Yes.
Michelle Hayes,
Yes.
Gene Sensi,
Yes.
Larry Armstrong,
Yes.
John Douglas.
Yes.
Vote is 5-0.
All right, I'll move to board member reports, and I'll begin with a moment of silence. It's always sad to learn of someone's passing, especially when it is a member of our Madison family. Recently, we learned of the passing of John Carilla, a retired elementary and middle school principal. John was born July 30th, 1931 in Nemacolin, Pennsylvania, and passed away May 3rd, 2020. He graduated from Cumberland Township High School in 1949. After working in the coal mines to support 2 years at Waynesburg College, John was drafted into the United States Army. After his discharge, he returned to college and graduated in 1957. In 1963, he received his master's from Kent State University. He began his teaching career at Homer Nash Kimball Elementary School as a sixth grade teacher and bus driver. John then became principal at Homer Nash and then Memorial Middle School. He retired from Madison after 33 years in the district. John will be deeply missed by his wife of over 60 years, Mary, children Elizabeth and John, his grandchildren, siblings, and many friends. All of us at Madison Schools extend our deepest and most sincere sympathy to John's family and friends. All right, does anyone else have board member reports this evening?
No, I just want to comment. It was fun seeing graduates with half their body poked through the sunroof and being able to do some screaming and some celebrating. That that was fun to see.
Are there any other board member reports? All right, seeing none, we'll move to the first public participation portion for the evening. This is on agenda items only. Anyone wishing to address the board would have 5 minutes. You could state your name and address for the board.
Okay, so what I'm going to do now is unmute everybody. And then at the end of the public participation, mute everybody and then unmute the board and the administration again. Okay, so that didn't work. So. I think I've got everybody. The mute all button disappeared. Or unmute all.
Mike, it still looks to me like there's about 5 people who are muted.
We've got one, let's see, Emily's now unmuted. There are some that I have to ask them to unmute. So if they want to be unmuted, I think they have to do it themselves.
Okay. So some people may have muted their own on their end.
Yeah, or their settings that they have on their personal doesn't allow
Okay.
somebody to unmute them.
All right, so this is the time for the first public participation portion for the evening on agenda items only.
I have something if I could. Brian Tittman, not Cammy, Brian Tittman, 5840 Woodside Drive. Just had a couple of questions in regards to the agenda where I'm named, and a number of us would like some clarification on 2 things really. These numbers appear to be adjusted using some different percentages. We'd like to know what criteria was used to determine some of these percentages chosen. And the second thing is, how are these positions selected as the only ones to be adjusted out of all the positions in the district? So we had some concerns, and those were some of the main ones that I would like to inquire, please.
Angela, would you like to address that?
I think we need an executive session first.
All right, so you suggest we move into executive session before
Executive session. What does that do to you, Mike?
Give me 1 minute and I'll figure it out.
Okay.
Should we ask if there's any other public participation comments before we move into executive session?
Damn.
We can.
Yeah, so it's going to take a couple minutes because the machine I had to determine whether or not somebody can hear what we're saying just shut down on me. So it's going to take a minute. What I'm going to have to do is move everyone except for the board and the administration into a breakout room. But since this will be the first time I'm doing it, I also want to make sure that the conversation in the regular room is not being heard in the breakout room due to the nature of executive session. So not knowing this was going to happen, this is going to take a minute to set up.
Sure, that's okay, Mike. But I think we need to also find out first before we move into executive session if there's any more public participation comments so that we have everything that we need to discuss prior to going into executive session.
Right, everybody's unmuted or has the ability to unmute themselves. So if they have a comment, they can.
And Sean, executive session would be for number 1,
Okay,
as well as probably anything related negotiation wise.
okay. So the question was posed, so we will come back to that. Is there anyone else wishing to address the board on agenda items?
All right, I'm just going to need another minute for the surface to warm up and
Okay.
get to where I need to go. Almost there. Because while Bob and I did practice a lot of stuff yesterday for preparing for the meeting to make sure any type of hacking wouldn't work. We did not practice breakout rooms. Okay, I'm going to move everybody into a breakout room that wouldn't be part of executive session.
We're going to need a motion
Yeah,
move into executive session for the purpose of the appointment, employment, dismissal, discipline, promotion, demotion, or compensation of public employees or regulated individuals, or the investigation of charges or complaints against a public employee or regulated individual unless such person requests a public hearing. Is there a motion?
I'll
I'll
move.
move.
I'll second.
Okay.
Any discussion? Roll call?
Michelle Hayes,
Yes.
Gene Sensi,
Yes.
Larry Armstrong,
Yes.
John Douglas,
Yes.
Michael Howry.
Yes.
Vote is 5-0. All right, so let me move everybody in.
So we're going to go into executive session and then return to finish the agenda.
All right, so
Hold on, Mike.
somebody just start talking. I'm gonna see if I can hear it on the machine that I'm on, the other one.
Mike,
Okay.
there's an additional person down there.
No, that's Jean.
That's
Her
Gene's
phone
phone
number.
number. Okay, we should be good. Hang on, wait,
Oh, that's your
Hold on.
phone. 'Cause you're
Oh,
using your
that's Jean's
phone.
phone.
hold on.
Me.
Okay, had to start the recording again. I am not gonna go back. So the SROs are not providing service, so we're not gonna be paying them. And the CARES Act is the money we're receiving from the federal government that's given to the state of Ohio and then given to the local governments, local schools. So our share of that is $355,882.49. So it looks a little odd to have a revenue item as a reduction of an expenditure. But as I talked about 2 weeks ago, we are allowed to supplant, meaning taking current expenses that are paid out of the general fund and pay them out of another fund. We're allowed to supplant 100% of the expenses associated with that revenue. So while it can also be used for other items, when the governor cuts us $510,000, we're going to be scrambling to make sure we have a positive balance at the end of the year. So it's my suggestion that we supplant $355,000 worth of expenses. And then the final item under the shutdown savings is cost. We haven't been operating the food service department to the same degree as we normally do. And frankly, we will not ask them to make up any loss. So that is a transfer from the general fund to the food service fund. So we have some other savings that we knew were coming down the road. Premium holiday. Hang on, I just had a thought. Premium holiday, the district is getting a premium holiday of about 350 some $1,000. But in a month where we have the holiday, we don't charge our employees the monthly contribution. That's part of our negotiated agreement. And frankly, it just makes sense. If we're not paying the monthly amount, neither should they. And then as part of the overall help the state is given, the Bureau of Workers' Compensation is doing another $1.6 billion back to local agencies. We received our check and it was a little under $80,000. And then finally, the big hit, the revenue reduction of $510,000. So overall, our revenue is going to drop from the prior forecast in the first year, $430,000 and change, but our expenses are going to drop by 1.1 million. So I'm going to stop there. And does anybody have any questions on just the first year? Okay, hearing none, I'm going to move on. So then we look at fiscal year 2021, which is the year beginning July 1st, 2020 and ending June 30th, 2021. And other than the first line item, it's everything that we've discussed over the last year about revenue enhancements and budget cuts. The first item, though, is because the casinos have been shut down, they're not generating any revenue, and therefore our casino revenue sharing payment is going to be adjusted. How much? I don't know. I took a guess at about a third of the year, and so I'm decreasing the revenue by 40,000. I think the payment in August will be smaller, and I'm pretty sure the payment in January will be smaller. If not, then we've got a little extra cushion, but it could be more. I'm just taking a guess. The next item, the revenue enhancements, we've increased the preschool tuition, and also the preschool tuition goes into another fund. It just means we have to because they'll have a little more money, we have to transfer $9,000 less out of the general fund. So kind of a revenue enhancement as a reduction of an expense, that's why it's there. Pay to participate fee increases were approved by the board as were increase in school fees. And then the budget cuts, obviously the big ones were the RIFs that the board, that the district had to enact between the teachers, the classified, and the retirement associated with them. A reduction in the ESC fees as part of the joint Lake and Jog and now the ESC of the Western Reserve and the leadership there, changing the funding formula. And then finally, the decrease in the building budgets. So in summary on the 5-year forecast, we had an ending balance projected of about $389,000. Next year, we actually will end with a little over $1 million. And that's strictly because of the savings on the shutdown. But my projection for the next year, we're about another 1.3 million better than we thought we'd be. But that's before any of the expenses associated with what we have to provide for the children of the district to come back. Honestly, I told Angela, if we've got to have 13 kids on a bus and 13 kids in a classroom, we will be broke in 3 months. There's just no way that they can expect us to come back like that. And then fiscal year 2022, 23, and 24, we're in the negative. So I know as soon as I file it, Angela and I are going to get a letter from the state that says, how are you going to get rid of your deficit? And every year I want to say you're going to fund schools properly, and every year they don't. It never lets me put that in the letter. So are there any questions on the 5-year forecast? Okay. And typically, I think I told you, the 5-year forecast in May, we just adjust a couple of numbers and go on, but there is so much happening that we just couldn't do that this year. So the next item on the agenda, the next item I want to talk about that is on the agenda is the approving Shaklee as our third-party administrator. and we've been with Shaklee, I think most of the years I've been here, they manage, or they administer our workers' comp claims, and they do a good job. But going with them, we also get to join either a group rating program or a retro rating program. The advantage of the group rating is the discount is now. It's not, we pay the full amount and get a refund over the next 3 years based on our performance. We get a set discount now. But we were originally quoted to be in a group that would have had a 57% discount. And then I called them up and said, look, we've been working hard on our workers' comp and doing what we need to do. We got from no group to a retro group, and last year we were in a group rating. So I said, we're moving in the right direction. What can you do? So they moved us from a 57% discount to a 63% discount, and that alone saved us $5,800. So the agenda tonight asks to be able to participate in Shaklee's group rating program. And we've been in that one for a few years. Questions on that?
Good job.
Okay. So somebody sounds like they're talking into a kazoo. Gene, say something.
Hello?
Okay, not you. Okay, so the next item I want to talk about is the liability insurance, and I sent the board a memo on this, but you're going to see it's a big dollar amount. It's $115,000, and we had passed along a 6% increase, or we got passed along to us a 6% increase. And again, that is significant, but it's not as bad as it could be. SORSA, which is the Schools of Ohio Risk Sharing Authority, it's a consortium of school districts that basically self-insure their property, fleet, and liability insurance. They were estimating that this year the increase was going to be between 10 and 15%. Market conditions are horrible. They're horrible for schools. Some of you know I sit on the insurance committee for the Amateur Athletic Union, and it's prevalent that insurance for anybody that has students or athletes is going up, and it's going up at a horrible rate if you can get insurance. But because we've been shut down for the last 2 months and our buses haven't been out on the roads, and there's no, not as many liability claims, consortium wide, they made the decision to transfer some of the money that's been saved to the member equity to help cushion the rate increases for next year. So again, instead of 10 to 15 on SORSA or Liberty Mutual, who's another player in the school insurance committee, passing along 10 to 20, we're realizing a 6% increase. So a little more than I would have liked, but it's not as bad as it could have been. Anything on that? Okay, just a couple more items. There's 2 new funds on the agenda. I did not send an email to the board because they got added late. We just found out that the CARES money coming to us is coming through the Elementary and Secondary School Emergency Relief Fund. And of course, every time they give you money, you got to set up a new fund. And every time you set up a new fund, you have to have approved by the board. So Fund 507 that appears on the agenda is the one where we're going to account for all the CARES money. And then the other 508 is going to account for the Governor's Emergency Education Relief Fund. I don't know how much, if any, money we're going to get through that. But I figured as long as I'm having new funds approved by the board, I'll throw it on. If we, I'll set it up. If we never use it, we never use it. And then finally, just to update the board on what I think the treasurer's office and when we're going to get back to work. I think I'm going to have my office, myself and the 3 ladies in the treasurer's office, we're probably going to work remotely until at least the end of June. There's some expenses associated with bringing employees back, and we are functioning just fine working remotely, since all except the printing software is accessible on the web. And we're still working nobody's in the office on the same day. So we're still functioning just like we were all here, but without the cost and the exposure of having everybody in the same room, because they're all in one office, and they would have to pass by each other's desk to get to their own. And I don't want to spend money on plexiglass if I don't, if I don't have to. We aren't missing a beat. Receipts are getting to the bank. Everybody's being paid. All the checks are being issued. And so unless the board has an issue with that, I'm going to tell them the plan right now is through June, and I'll evaluate it halfway through June. So any issues with my staff remaining out remotely for through the end of June?
No.
Okay. All right. So if any questions on anything I discussed? Okay, then I'm going to go ahead and get to the items that are in the agenda. Hang on, I'll make a note about the employee contributions. Okay, so the first is to approve the financial reports for all funds, fund-to-fund transfer report, and the check payment register for April 2020. To approve the 5-year forecast for fiscal years 2020 through 2024, the May update, as presented and found on file in the Treasurer's Office, and to approve Shaklee as the third-party administrator for workers' compensation at a cost of $2,360, and to approve participation in their 2021 group rating program.
I'll move.
I'll move.
I'll second.
Any discussion? Roll call?
Gene Sensi,
Yes.
Larry Armstrong,
Yes.
Sean Douglas,
Yes.
Michael Howry,
Yes.
Michelle Hayes.
Yes.
Vote is 5-0. For the next item, I'm going to unmute Shauna to see if she has anything to say. Shauna, it's the tax budget for the library. I don't know if the board has any questions.
No, I mean, we're also seeing some loss, and we're not sure what the loss is going to be either until people get back to work and we have tax revenue coming in. So
Just like the tax budget for the school district, this doesn't give the library any additional authority to levy taxes. It just gives the county auditor the information they need to usually just debt service.
Shauna, what percentage of the budget at the library is property taxes, local county property tax levies versus whatever you're receiving from the local government fund?
let me look at that sheet. It's pretty close to, it's not 50-50. Property taxes are higher now, or I'm supposing they're going to be higher now than what the PLF is. So.
Okay. Thank you.
So if there's no further questions, Sean, I'm going to mute you. And then, so the next is to ratify the adoption of the fiscal year 2021 tax budget for the Madison Public Library as approved and recommended by the Madison Public Library Board of Trustees as found on file in the Treasurer's Office, and to authorize and direct the Treasurer to submit the tax budget to the Lake County Auditor pursuant to Ohio Revised Code Section 5705.28 through 5705.30.
I'll move.
I'll move. I'll second.
Any discussion? Roll call?
Larry Armstrong,
Yes.
Sean Douglas,
Yes.
Michael Howry,
Yes.
Michelle Hayes,
Yes.
Gene Sensi.
Yes.
Vote is 5-0. The next item is to approve a 1-year agreement with Schools of Ohio Risk Sharing Authority through its agent Strassman Insurance Agency for property, fleet, and liability insurance for the period July 1, 2020 through June 30th, 2021 at a cost of $115,679.
I'll move.
I'll second.
Any discussion?
I just have one question. Is this going to be, if for some reason we're not running our buses, because this is the liability tax for our buses, right?
Yes, we do have coverage on our buses.
Okay. So if for some reason we're not running our buses next school year, we can, let's hope this doesn't happen, but let's say the governor does say we're doing online school next, are we going to get a reduction in our rate?
We would ask for a refund because this is a policy that we pay up front on July 1st. So much like I thought we would, we asked for a refund for the current year and they decided to cushion the rates for next year. So I wouldn't expect if for some reason we are not running buses to wait an entire year to realize the savings from that. I think SORSA would be hard pressed to say, wait until fiscal year 2022 and you'll get more money back then. I think, because we're all school districts, we would all say, no, we really need it now.
Right.
So, waiting and getting the benefit of it instead of in May and June of this year and getting it in July isn't a big deal. Losing the benefit in September, October, and November and having to wait until July of next year, that wouldn't be acceptable.
Sure. Okay, thank you.
Is it time for roll call?
Yes.
Okay, we'll do that then.
Sean Douglas,
Yes.
Michael Howry,
Yes.
Michelle Hayes,
Yes.
Gene Sensi,
Yes.
Larry Armstrong.
Yes.
Vote is 5-0. The next item is to approve the following funds: 507 Elementary and Secondary School Emergency Relief Fund and 508 Governor's Emergency Education Relief Fund. And there's no vote. There will be.
I'll move.
I'll second.
Discussion? Roll call?
Michael Howry,
Yes.
Michelle Hayes,
Yes.
Gene Sensi,
Yes.
Larry Armstrong,
Yes.
Sean Douglas.
Yes.
Vote is 5-0. And then finally, to accept a generous donation of children's books from Kayla DeFranco to South Elementary students that were delivered to families during the COVID-19 shutdown, and a generous donation of $500 from Susan E. Leach to the Robert J. Leach Memorial Scholarship Fund.
I'll move.
I'll second.
I'll second.
Any discussion? Thank you very much. Roll call?
Michelle Hayes,
Yes.
Gene Sensi,
Yes.
Larry Armstrong,
Yes.
Sean Douglas,
Yes.
Michael Howry.
Yes.
Vote is 5-0. And that's all I have for this evening. Thank you.
Thank you.
Reports of the administrative team.
Oh,
Angela appears to be.
she should be able to unmute now.
All right.
Dave, I'm going to unmute you too, or ask you to unmute.
Got it.
My phone was ringing, so I needed to unmute myself because I still have a house phone. All right, well, we have lots of things to talk about tonight, but the first I'd like to do is, as we found out yesterday, Pat Liebhart is resigning her position as Director of Pupil Services. And, normally you have a big process to look for somebody, but when you have somebody internally, and we're right now in a state of crisis with COVID-19 and having to make decisions quickly and having to have an understanding of the district is really important, because to bring somebody in that doesn't know the district in a regular time period, there's a lot of learning. So to have somebody internally that can step in, I think it is a blessing. We will definitely miss Pat, and she is going on to one of her dream jobs. She loves working with special needs students, and she's going to go on and teach at Broadmoor. A position came earlier than anticipated for her. It was her dream retirement job, and so she's going to her dream job. And when I started working with Jen Grimes on her superintendent's license this year, she said one of her goals would be possibly to be a director of pupil services someday. Little did she know that someday would come a few months later, and I am bringing Jen Grimes to the board tonight as our next pupil services director. I am very excited to have her and her energy on board with us. And so she's here tonight after working graduation all day to come aboard. Mike, are you able to unmute Jen so she could say a few words?
I think I just did. Jen, you can unmute yourself. Now try. There you go.
There we are. Hi. All right. I just want to say thank you very much for your vote of confidence, Angela. I know we've been in a lot of conversations this past year and a half as you've mentored me for my superintendent license. So I've always enjoyed working with students with special needs, and it's always been one of my passions is to still have some kind of connection to students once I did leave the building administrative level. So I did have a year at Ledgemont prior to my going to Berkshire. So I do have, unfortunately, I have the opposite experience of how to close down a school district special ed department. So hopefully I won't bring any of that with me, but I look forward to working with everybody, and I'm very, very sad to leave the high school. I truly enjoyed my 3 years there, but I'm excited for this next chapter, and I'm dedicated to Madison. I just bought another house in Madison. We'll be moving, so I really enjoy being part of the community as well. So I'm excited. So thank you very much.
Oh. Anybody have any questions about that before I move on into quite a lengthy report? It's a very long meeting tonight. So we have graduation day one under our belts, and Jen also could probably address that since she was there today. I plan on going up tomorrow for it. I saw the pictures that were taken today, and it just looks like it went really, really very smoothly. I am very excited that we were able to pull this together. I was up there on Friday for the speeches, and it was, and you're going to hear me probably echo this throughout, but things that we heard from our teachers too this week, it was just good to be among people and kids. And I know I have some teachers coming in as to do pickup just to see kids, because, you know, teachers got into this to be with kids and not sit on Zoom meetings and Google Classrooms. And, you know, my hope is that we could have some sense of normalcy by fall. I don't know what we'll have, but it would be nice to have a sense of normalcy. So congratulations to the class of 2020. Year-end wrap up, like I said, teachers have been coming in to clean up their rooms. And the other thing I heard over and over again, it was the saddest thing to clean up empty classrooms and bag up student belongings, because when everybody left in March, no one thought that that was going to be the goodbye. So, you know, there's loose ends with that. And that makes it hard. Wrapping up the remote learning experience this week, I think everybody is happy to have that chapter nearly behind us. Again, I know our staff has worked very hard on the remote learning. They have worked hard to do well by the students. And sometimes the students were receptive and sometimes the students had their own challenges. And so part of what we will do as we plan for next year is there will be a parent survey and there's going to be a staff survey to get some reflection on this year and as we go forward into next year's unknown. So administrators have done a good job on working out the closeout and the procedures seem to be going very smoothly. So the big piece, and you know, who would have ever thought, you guys have gotten a lot of my Grey's Anatomy references in the last couple months, but Grey's Anatomy addresses a whole lot. I was just watching an episode the other night that you could touch your face up to 18 times in an hour, which we're not supposed to do, by the way. But the theme song is Nobody Knows Where You Might End Up. Well, we really, in this whole reset, restart, do not know where we're going to end up. And the draft guidance as of today is still very thin. And I'm going to walk you through what the 4 key areas are, but they kind of started backwards because, as Mike said, the big question that we need to really address is how we're going to get kids to school. What is that going to look like? Because if we can't get them in the building, then we can't do all the other things that are a part of the plan. So we have, you know, the plan is broken up into 4 key areas: health, safety, and logisticals. And that's all the things that the Ohio Department of Health is saying that we need to do to be ready to open the school. Things that are going to be required. We have heard over and over again, social distancing, some form of daily health assessments, hygiene, hand washing, hand sanitizing. We are putting in, you know, the buildings that have classrooms that have sinks, we haven't had soap dispensers. So we are going to put, you know, the soap dispensers in. Well, you know, washing hands takes a long time then too. So there's all these little logistical things that have gone into this plan that sort of have to be thought about and worked out. Then we've got all the piece that we're here for, the educational considerations. One of the things that the plan does talk about is what kind of intervention are you going to provide summer and fall? Well, we have by law, we have to provide extended school year services for certain students with special needs. We have talked about if we're able to bring kids into the buildings, doing some sort of intervention, whether it be right at the start of school or after school when school starts for some of our elementary students. And again, it's all going to be dependent upon what we can feasibly do with bringing people together. Professional development has got to be a big part of whatever the plan is, especially if we are going to continue with any form of remote learning. And again, getting that guidance and some good professional development opportunities to share with staff is going to be important. And through all of this, they stress flexibility because we should have multiple plans going forward. We should have plans A, B, C, and D. You know, those things are all important. I think attendance also, because if students get sick or if they've been exposed and, you know, have direct contact and all of those things, we're going to have to deal with those issues. And there's going to need to be some legislative relief from some of the hours probably there. And again, looking at staff attendance, because we talked administratively today that we have a very outstanding crew of building substitutes, but some of them are on the older end, they skew on the older end of the spectrum. So if they choose not to sub because of the risk of COVID-19, that could pose a problem for us going into next year. And then personalized learning, finding ways to personalize learning for students more. And I think that's that whole most likely to succeed piece. So those are some things that we'll have to consider. And then they break the plan also into the social, emotional health considerations, family engagement, student supports, and employee supports, because this whole experience across the board has been stressful in all those areas. And we have got to work together to be cognizant of that. For our staff, we have impact solutions available, which allows those up to 6 free counseling sessions, because there is some trauma involved in this. And so there's going to be some things that people have to deal with. Operational considerations, and that's the big one. That's where, some of the big costs are. Transportation, obviously custodial and maintenance, and that's where, ordering some of those necessary supplies like masks, hand sanitizer, thermometers, and how we're going to operationalize the use of those things. Extracurricular activities are still in question. We don't know what fall's going to look like, so we don't know if we'll be able to have some of those things that bring large groups together. And if you read some of the guidance on, things people have to do, I'm not quite sure, are you gonna wipe down a ball after how many times it's been, sweated on, or, bodily fluids come into contact with it. So those are the types of things that, we're looking for all sorts of guidance, and ODE will work with the OHSSA and the local Department of Health, as well as the State Department of Health, to give us hopefully some good guidance. And then technology concerns are another piece. As we used as in our community, over 500 Chromebooks were loaned out to do the remote learning. So we're hoping all 500 come back in perfect shape, but we're aware that they may not. And then we've got some work to do with that. And then if we have to do remote learning in a spot basis, or how do we make that work with the regular classroom use? So there are so many questions. And then ODE provides its own set of questions. Are we going to get some relief again from testing, accountability, graduation requirements? Teacher evaluation continues to have to be developed as we go forward next year. We're going to have a policy for the new OTES 2.0. We're going to bring a very generic policy forward, because I would not sit down at the table with my teachers and talk about what OTES 2.0 looks like before we know what COVID 2021 looks like. And we want to have a thoughtful, productive discussion about OTES 2.0, and not just something to meet a statutory requirement. So there's lots and lots of things to look at. And, getting staff and community feedback, the family feedback is going to be important as well. So I can entertain questions if you have any questions on any of that. Chances are my answers are going to be, I don't know, but I'll do the best I can to answer whatever questions you have. So there are no questions? All right. Then Dave, do you have anything for the good of the order tonight?
Yeah, just a
Dave
few
with us?
updates on some things
I think
we've
we're
talked about
slowing
in the
up.
past. I'm here. Can you hear me? Oh,
Okay.
my connection
Yeah, I
is
can hear you now. You're
unstable.
moving
Yes.
now. You're live.
Are we good now? All right. Couple follow-ups on some things that I've talked about in the past. Custodians are back this week, or well, they've been back for a couple weeks since our last meeting, when they had just returned to work. And so far, the protocols seem to be going well, and I think they've laid a good foundation for other employees as they come back. We are putting final touches on a comprehensive literacy grant. I've talked about this for several months now. This is a grant that we are applying for in conjunction with Riverside, Fairport, Berkshire, Cardinal, Painesville City. I think I got them all 6 districts, and the ESC of the Western Reserve is working with us on that as well. So that's going to go in this week, and we're going to keep our fingers crossed. It would provide a good deal of support for those 6 districts in the area of literacy for about 4 to 5 years. And so we're hopeful that, and that's in grades 6 to 12. We're hopeful that we are successful with this bid. I've been working with Angela and administration on staffing for next year, and so we're trying to make the few adjustments that we need to do to be ready to start the year next year, as Angela said, however that looks. And I guess the last thing, I know I've shared with you in the past, teachers in their first 4 years of work go through a Educator Residency program, and they have a number of tasks to do in each year, and each of those 4 years looks a little bit different. But I'm happy to report that our resident educators, folks who are working in their first 4 years, have been doing a great job in their residencies, and all have been marked as complete for their current year, and will be either moving into the next year of their residency, or the ones who are finished will get to transition to their professional license. So I think we've got some great hires coming on board each year. Other than that, I'll take any questions anybody has. Thank you.
All right. Well, next item up is the memorandum of understanding with the Madison Education Association. It is a resolution approving the extension of the collective bargaining agreement between the Board of Education and the Madison Education Association. You want to do motion, and in your second, I can, give you a little background.
I'll move.
Second.
Any discussion?
I just would like to say how much I appreciate the ease with which we came to agreement with the MEA on this. We realize that in this COVID-19 world, we had talked about possibly this extension before all this, and to come together and make that happen, I am appreciative. It doesn't mean to say that, as we do have probably terms and conditions that may be different for next year, we're going to have to sit down and talk about what those look like. But for now, we have an agreement going into place for next year. So thank you, MEA.
Any other discussion? Roll call.
Dean Sensi,
Yes.
Larry Armstrong,
Yes.
Sean Douglas,
Yes.
Michael Howery,
Yes.
Michelle Hayes. Michelle, you need to unmute yourself.
Am
Michelle
I unmuted
Hayes?
now?
You are.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, yes.
Thank you. Vote is 5-0.
All right, under my normal recommendations this evening, under the personnel motion, we're asking you to accept the following resignations. The resignation of Amy Godek, intervention specialist at South Elementary, effective the end of the 2019-2020 school year. The resignation of Pat Liebhart, effective the end of the 2019-2020 contract year. And to accept the resignation, I'm like, why are we accepting her resignation? The resignation of Jen Grimes, Madison High School Assistant Principal, effective July 1st, 2020. We're asking for your approval to approve the unpaid leave of medical leave request of Renee Farina, Madison High School Intervention Specialist for the period August 17th, 2020 through May 27th, 2021. And we're asking you to enter into the following employment contracts. The certificated persons listed in Appendix A as teachers, each under a one-year limited contract for the 2021 contract year. The certificated persons listed in Appendix B as teachers under a two-year limited contract for the 2020-21 school year. To employ Dave Bull under a five-year administrator's contract as assistant superintendent effective August 1st, 2020 through July 31st, 2025. To employ William Mayer under a two-year administrator's contract as North Elementary School principal effective August 1st, 2020 through July 31st, 2022. To employ Jen Cantonese Grime under a three-year supervisory administrator's contract as pupil services director effective August 1st, 2020 through July 31st, 2022. To employ Amy Markajon under a two-year supervisory administrator's contract as literacy specialist effective August 1st, 2020 through July 31st, 2022. And to employ Tori Wigfield, technology support specialist effective August 1st, 2020 through July 31st, 2023. We're asking you to revise the following contracts to reflect the following dollar amounts for payment, beginning with B.J. Tittman, head baseball coach, and ending with Tyler Kogar, MHS spring musical choreographer. We are asking you to employ the following non-certificated person under a one-year limited personal service contract for the 1920 school year. And that was Jalen Harris as MMS musical choreographer, and that's at 50% of the stipend. The board is authorizing the annual salary notices be sent to authorize and direct the treasurer to send salary notice for the 2020-21 school year contract year by June 30th, 2020 to all certificated instructional personnel currently employed under a continuing contract as listed in Appendix C, and authorize and direct the treasurer to include in the FY 2021 appropriation sufficient amounts to meet the combined value of all annual salary notices. The support staff listed in Appendix B under a two-year limited contract in the position and rate of compensation as noted effective July 1st, 2020 through June 30th, 2022. And we're asking you to authorize annual salary notices and direct the treasurer to send an annual salary notice for the 2020-21 contract year by June 30th, 2020 to all support staff currently employed under a continuing contract as listed in Appendix E, all support staff currently employed under a two-year limited contract as listed in Appendix F, and all certificated and non-certificated administrative supervisory personnel, including the treasurer and board office and other school district personnel who are not members of the collecting and bargaining unit as found in Appendix G, and authorize and direct the treasurer to include in the FY21 appropriations sufficient amount to meet the combined value of all annual salary notices issued under the authority of this motion. And that is the personnel motion. It's a rather lengthy one tonight.
I'll move.
I'll move.
Gene, do you want a second?
I'll second.
Any discussion?
I'd just
Roll
like to
call.
take a second to thank Pat Liebhart for all her hard work in the district. Pat's always been rock solid, and in anything she's done, she's always had her ducks in a row, and I had complete faith in her work. She always had the students in her best interest and the district as well.
Absolutely.
Circumstances, I think Jen's is would have been the top candidate and is our top candidate, and will do a great job.
Hang on, Jen's trying to say something. It looks like, oh, no, she's not. Never mind. Okay. Sorry.
It looks like Michelle would like to make a comment, but she's waving her hand here.
She's muted.
She can unmute herself now.
Thank you. Now I can. Do you have to send me something that lets me unmute?
I will
Hello?
find out why certain people have to ask to be unmuted, why I have to ask them to unmute. I will find out and
Okay.
try and get that worked out for the next meeting, because that's new.
Any of these salary notices that we're sending out, do any of these have anything, are any of these notices that we're directing to send out, are any of them for supplementals for next year?
No, they're not.
Nope.
Okay.
We
Okay,
wouldn't
very
send
good.
out supplemental contracts until the board approves them.
Okay.
Any other discussion? Okay, roll call.
Can I verify with Mike, because I want to make sure my eyes didn't skip something. Did I read Amy Markajon? This is such a long motion. I want to
You
make
did.
sure I read her.
Yes.
Thank you.
We good with the roll call? Okay. Larry Armstrong,
Yes.
Sean Douglas,
Yes.
Michael Howry,
Yes.
Michelle Hayes,
Yes.
Gene Sensi,
Yes.
vote is 5-0.
All right. Next item is to approve the supplemental limited contracts for the following employees for work to be formed under the agreements for technology personal services between Madison local school districts, local school district and Fairport Harbor Executive Village School District, Educational Service Center of the Western Reserve, Warrensville Heights City School District, and the shared technology shared services agreements between Madison Local School District and Brookfield Local School District and Auburn Vocational School District. And they are all listed, beginning with Bob Cerruti for each of the districts, Ashley Medwig for each of the districts. All these are effective July 1st of 2020. Andrew Grybos, all the districts listed. Tori Whitfield, all the districts listed, and Norman Watts, all the districts listed.
I'll move.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Any discussion?
Michelle's waving her hand.
Mike, I know these are contracts for next year, but
Who is?
I know these are contracts for next year, but how have things been going with things?
Good. We did have a couple of districts drop out this year, so you see that the supplementals are not included. Geneva and Brooklyn. And again, we're going to lose Newberry as of July 1st because that district ceases to exist. So I have run, we always try and the net cost to the district can't be any more than where we would have been if we had continued with the people that were in the position. And I ran the numbers yesterday, and right now we're still 10,000 to the good. But I'm also looking, there's other districts that we're constantly talking to other districts to try and bring them on board. But it has to be a good fit for us and a good fit for them. And, we're still making headway. I was a little concerned that when we lost those three, would we have to start cutting part-time people? And if we don't get additional districts to come on board, we may have to reduce a part-time person. We can't allow, this is working good. It's saving money for the district. But on the other hand, we can't allow it to cost us more than we were paying for the other two. So Right now, we're still to the good. We bring on additional districts and we'll be even better off.
Any additional discussion? Roll call?
Sean Douglas,
Yes?
Michael Howry,
Yes.
Michelle Hayes,
Yes.
Gene Sensi,
Yes.
Larry Armstrong.
Yes.
Vote is 5-0.
All right, the next item is to approve the revisions to the emergency operating plan and to recertify them as of May 16th, 2020.
I'll move.
I'll second.
Any discussion? Roll call?
Michael Howry,
Yes.
Michelle Hayes,
Yes.
Gene Sensi,
Yes.
Larry Armstrong,
Yes.
Sean Douglas.
Yes.
Vote is 5-0.
All right, the next item is a resolution to administer paper versions of the state assessments to third grade students during the 2020-21 school year.
I'll move.
I'll second.
Second.
Any discussion? Roll call?
Michelle Hayes,
Yes.
Gene Sensi,
Yes.
Larry Armstrong,
Yes.
Sean Douglas,
Yes.
Michael Howry.
Yes.
Vote is 5-0.
All right, I have two items on the consent calendar this evening. This is to enter into a client's school district service agreement between the Madison Local School District and the Educational Service Center of the Western Reserve, effective July 1st, 2020 through June 30th, 2022, as found on file in the board office, and to acknowledge a donation of 195 Mankato masks to the Madison Fire District, as well as allowing them to borrow 2 Clorox 360 machines and 4 gallons of sanitizer for those machines to help with COVID-19.
I'll move.
I'll second.
Any discussion? Roll call?
Gene Sensi,
Yes.
Larry Armstrong,
Yes.
Sean Douglas,
Yes.
Michael Howry,
Yes.
Michelle Hayes.
Yes.
Vote is 5-0.
All right, we'll now open the second public participation portion for the evening. This is on any item you wish to address the board. If you could state your name and address.
Same drill. I'm going to try and unmute everybody. So let me, hold on. Let's see, I think I've got everybody, and hang on. Jennifer, I muted Jennifer Calhoun. I muted you because of the background noise. I'm going to unmute you again if you have a question.
I'm good, thank you.
Okay.
Is there anyone wishing to address the board?
It looks like everybody unmuted, muted right back.
Okay.
I don't want to talk to you.
I don't need to do anything else. Everybody's muted.
All right.
Thank you.
All right. Go in once. All right. Seeing none. Is there a need for executive session?
No,
No.
Is there a motion for adjournment?
I'll move.
I'll move.
I'll
second.
second.
Any discussion? Roll call?
Larry Armstrong,
Yes.
Sean Douglas. Okay, Sean Douglas,
Yes.
Michael Howery,
Yes.
Michelle Hayes,
Yes.
Gene
Yes.
Sensi. Vote is 5-0.
Yes.
Oh, sorry, Gene.
That's
Just a simple
late.
yes. All right, so
I think you want to leave, Mike.
I'm gonna, are we gonna adjourn?
Yes.
No.
Standing adjournment.
No.
Oh, all right, I'm gonna stop the recording